Moving to an electronic system is not going to fix a process problem. If that's anything you take away from this podcast, it's realizing that saying that going to an electronic system is going to fix the issues that you have with your process, and that's not the case.
Research quality can feel complex, and knowing where to start is often the hardest part. Welcome to the Quality Assurance Podcast, where we bridge the gap between uncertainty and action with smart, simple, and sustainable solutions that actually work. This special 6-part series is brought to you by PRN Pharmaceutical Research Network, LLC, your partner in ophthalmic clinical research with built-in quality and compliance expertise. Welcome your host, Chris Milawski, alongside the CEO and co-founder of PRN, Jeanette Stewart, and quality assurance expert, Ashley Hehr.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the PRN QA podcast. I'm once again joined by Jeanette Stewart with PRN, as well as Ashley Hehr, our QA expert. Final installment for us for our QA podcast. So this is kind of exciting. I think we're going to finish with a flourish today as well, because we were just talking a little bit about geeking out on certain things in clinical research, and the three of us, are probably in that complete realm. But we're going to talk about moving your operations to electronic systems. And Ashley's got some interesting notes for this particular podcast. The thing I wrote down after reading part of it was, I put in quotation, I put the solution. The electronic systems are the solution to all your problems. Is that right, Ashley?
Yep. Moving to an electronic system is not going to fix a process problem. If that's anything you take away from this podcast, it's realizing that saying that going to an electronic system is going to fix the issues that you have with your process, and that's not the case. So we're going to dive in today what really needs to be in place and what misconceptions are had before digitalizing a process from going from a paper process to an actual electronic system. And we're going to talk about things that we really need to ensure are in place, or different thought processes that's in place before going to an electronic system.
So I don't want to get off on too negative a foot in the beginning, because, we were a little tongue in cheek when we started that. Electronic systems can be excellent. I mean, in terms of trying to track your studies and keep on top of data. We mentioned in the monitoring podcast about how back in the day it was 3-part NCR, where the white and the yellow copies got pulled and sent in-house, where they would literally do double data entry. Somebody would do it, another person would do it, and they would compare them up. Those things are all gone. And electronic systems are brilliant, but if they're not set up properly, or they're not tracking the right thing, or they're not looking at the right components or whatnot, they're not going to help you in any way, shape, or form, are they?
They have to be underpinned by robust processes.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And repeat that again, Jeanette.
They must be underpinned by robust processes.
Yes. And systems aren't going to create quality. It's going to be your processes that are going to create the quality and are going to then produce from your system reliable, good deliverables and output.
They can help you manage, give you metrics, great things like that, but they're not going to be a cure-all if you don't have everything underneath it the way it needs to be. So actually, how does it need to be?
First of all, you need to have your processes defined. You need a process, not a high level, but a step-by-step workflow. You need to ensure in your process that decision points are defined, your inputs are defined, outputs are defined, documented expectation. And if 2 people are performing a task differently, then the process isn't defined. If 2 people are performing a process differently in a system, then your process is not defined. So you need to ensure that everyone is using the system the same way. And that's in your process. Easy, right?
Yeah. You have a brilliant bullet point. It says if 2 people are doing the task differently, your task is simply not defined. And that's, common sense. But, when you launch into these endeavors and you want to start going full bore in terms of QA processes, procedures, and you do move into electronic systems and whatnot, again, it's the programming human, the programming entity, the one who's putting in what it is you're tracking. That needs to be done. If your staff or whoever's supposed to be following this policy is not doing it the same way, your procedure is not defined. That's just the bottom line.
And so then also not just having your step-by-step procedure, but also clearly defining roles and responsibilities. Who performs a task, who reviews it, who approves it, who escalates it, where are the stopgaps? So who is responsible for the individual tasks that are being done within the system? And when your roles are not clearly defined, then you're going to have someone think, oh, I thought they were responsible for doing it. And then nobody's actually doing it. So ensuring that it's very clear where the stopgaps are and who is responsible for those individual reviews, approvals, escalations, so on and so forth. And so, you have your processes, you have your defined, really before moving into a system, if there has been an issue that has been identified, has that issue been fixed? So if you're saying, hey, we're not escalating our deviations appropriately, has the process been fixed and has the escalation been defined? So when you do go in a system that manages your deviations, that it is appropriately defined in the system. So if you haven't identified or fixed the problem outside, then going into the system and it's not identified is not going to fix the issue.
It will not.
It will not. So, I've heard a couple of people say to me before, just put it in the system. It'll fix itself.
Love that. I love that. Yeah.
It doesn't fix itself. Yes, a system will help automate a process a little bit. It actually will help people understand step by step. I love that about electronic systems. I think it's great because a lot of systems have those stopgaps where you can't move to the next field or the next screen or the next procedure until you've completed what is on the screen. So I think it is absolutely a wonderful resource. And I think it's really helped the industry in being more effective, efficient, being able to really show the work that we're doing from an audit trail standpoint, from being able to truly show that this is authentic information. But the thing is that it's not going to fix itself if it's not put in or processed appropriately.
Correct.
I agree with you, Ashley. I think as people learn electronic systems, as they start to understand permissions, I think that really helps with understanding who has what role and how things move through a workflow and get escalated and things like that. So that permissioning feature, sometimes you can show that to someone. It's like the light bulb goes off. Oh, now I get it,
Yes. Or that you show them, if you do this, it affects this downstream. So you're putting this field in, and this is what ends up happening downstream. And they're like, oh, yeah, we don't want it that way. Yeah. So learning a system and understanding where the system on the back end is speaking to each other helps, because then the people that are actually the end users that are using the system understand the functionality of it. And one of the things that I have seen is you get a new system in-house or a new system that is being used, and the people that are the end users, so the ones that are actually going to be inputting the data into the system, are for whatever reason not involved in configuration or functioning or are defining the functions of the system.
Absolutely.
When you bring a system in-house, one of the things that you need to ensure that you do is you understand its intended use, what you want it to do, and what the output of the system should do. And there's different roles. Obviously, you're going to have IT, you're going to have your end users, you're going to have your quality people, but the end users are being involved in configuration and functionality of a system is so important because they're the ones that are going to actually be in the system using it. And they're the ones that are going to be actually using the output of the system as it's intended.
And what's important as well is, and this is probably a little bit more 30,000 foot level, but in terms of the type of system that you're using, if for project management, where you've got a full-blown clinical trial management system, a CTMS system, if you will, they can be programmed as exotically as you want them or basic out of the box.
Absolutely.
And it just it depends on how you want to use that system. And this is certainly not a commercial for advertising for certain CTMS systems or anything like that, or how you should use them.
Right.
If you're going to invest in the technology, then you need to make sure that the system is going to match your internal systems and processes, so that if I open up a CTMS system and I'm writing a report and I see a function that says, oh, I can put my protocol deviations in here, then I go to put one in, it won't let me because that function's not turned on. Or I can put in my SAEs and all these functions not turned on, which now means now I have an external system I have to go look at. I've got a spreadsheet that is tracking all this, which is great. I love spreadsheets. I'm a spreadsheet guy. I couldn't program one to save my life, but I like using them. But what you're doing now is you're now confounding, what your CTMS system is doing. And that could be a CTMS system. It could be an RTSM system. It could be an EDC system. It could be whatever. If you're hoping that all of your systems are going to talk to each other, well, they can program it that way. There's going to be a cost associated with that. So I think what it boils down to is, number one, the sponsor, whoever is implementing the system, whatever entity's implementing the system, your point exactly. What exactly are you going to use it for? Yeah. And then next to that, if we're not going to be using all 15 of the features, we're only using 8. The 4 other features that we really need, here's our process around that. And here's how you're going to use this to compare to that. So it's very important. It's very frustrating, like you said, for the end user to see all this great functionality. We're just not using it when that could solve a lot of communication issues, right?
Absolutely. And just making sure, and I think we've almost on every podcast, we've talked about training in some sort of level, but I also feel like this is another area that truly having good training with the team members that are using it and that are involved in it is very important as well, because there's so many times that people don't realize that what they're inputting could potentially be an issue. And so if they don't understand the requirement of a field or the process workflow or what is required to actually upload a document appropriately, then you're going to run into issues. So really ensure that you have a strong training program and somebody that really understands the system and can be a subject matter expert when it comes to that system as well is so important. I go to clients sometimes and I'm like, oh, you have this system. And they're like, yeah, we don't really know how to use it. And I'm like, because it could help in so many areas. So really having somebody that has invested some time into understanding the features and really training the team members to understand what they're using the system for and how to use it is going to be very helpful as well. So I know we've harped on training on almost every other podcast, but this also goes with this as well, is that ensuring that the team members that are using the system really understand it and you have a good, robust training around it as well.
Yeah. And good tools, the good reference tools. A lot of times when you've got your field staff out doing what they need to do, we can't always get a hold of anybody. But if I can't get a hold of the ECCGs, like the ECG guidelines and whatnot, where I can't get to a user manual very easily, I'm kind of stuck until I can figure out what I need to do in the system. So, tools for your end users are very important, especially your site staff. They're running across multiple platforms. Because multiple sponsors are using different platforms on what they're doing. It's the same as I'm still collecting data or I'm still putting in a management system. It's a different management system. So that's important as well. Going back to how you're going to use your system, if you're an entity and you're looking at wanting to bring on electronic systems, really dive into it. Don't just, I've got a buddy who's got the same kind of company down in wherever, and he uses this. He says it's great. It may not be great for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Think about your end users, about what you're going to be using it for. Get in, look at the user interface. How people are going to be looking at it. How is your study site, your coordinator, who is integrally important for getting data in the system? That's the only way it gets in the system. How's that person going to be able to get through the system? How easy is it? Have your monitors look at it. Calls of your known study sites. Have you used the system before? What do you think about it? Because it's very important, because systems can be so helpful, but at the same token can be live by the SOP, die by the SOP, right? It can be so helpful, but it can also be if you get the wrong system and people don't know how to use it, it can be such a problem. It really, really can. Yeah.
And if you don't set it up appropriately, one of the systems that I have been actively involved in is setting up ETMF systems. And I always say, I think of an ETS system, when I looked at it in my mind or think of it in my mind, it's like a filing cabinet. If I open up the filing cabinet and tabs are all over the place and none of them have consistent naming, and you got your protocols over here and you got your IBs over here and nothing is consistent, you got site documents filtered through, that's just as bad as having an undefined eTMF. So ensuring that your eTMF is set up like a filing cabinet, the names of the documents are clear, concise, they make sense. That's when I think of the electronic systems, that is an excellent resource and tool to have. It makes things extremely easy. People can find documents, but if you don't set it up appropriately, you don't define the process, you don't define a naming convention at the beginning, then you literally have a filing cabinet with just a bunch of paper in it and nobody can find anything.
Absolutely.
You just want to close that drawer and never open it again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Back to the point of training, when you introduce something like this, if people from the outset hate it because they don't understand it, then you've got this barrier that you're going to be trying to beat down for a long period of time. Initial introduction is so important. We even see this, look at acceptance of, say, Zoom or Microsoft Teams. You have people that hate one, love the other.
And vice versa.
And it's probably, how it was introduced to them. Do they really know how it works? Same thing.
Yes.
And so it's really critical. And then if there's something wrong with the system and it has to be corrected, then what? Ashley, do you have any ideas on things that have to be done then?
That's when it goes back to ensuring you have people that understand the system, a subject matter expert that people can go to and ask these questions. Hey, I'm running into this issue. How do I fix it? And when the common end user continuously have to ask questions and the subject matter expert can't answer it, people get very frustrated. So having somebody that understands it and that is a good resource is extremely important to decrease the frustration of people that are learning a new system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely true.
We're going to take a brief pause here for a quick note from our sponsor. You're watching the Quality Assurance Podcast, smart, simple, and sustainable solutions, brought to you by PRN Pharmaceutical Research Network, LLC. If you're finding these solutions helpful, don't miss an episode of this 6-part series. Hit that follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform right now. Don't miss our downloadable show notes and freebies. Just click the link in the description to go directly to PRN's site to download the materials and get more information about the QA program, this episode, and other episodes as they become available. Now back to Chris, Jeanette, and Ashley.
So Ashley, one of the things I think that we also need to mention is, confirming that the system is functioning properly and that you've confirmed that the system is doing what you're intended it to do. So talk a little bit about that as well.
So that's when I bring in the word validation, which can be kind of scary to some when they hear the word validating a system, because it can be quite complex and quite scary to some. But essentially, when I talk about validation, what you are doing is, as a company, is that you are showing that the system is working as it's intended and the functions that you have defined and the deliverables that you have defined, the system is providing those and working as expected. So essentially, in high-level terms, validating is being able to produce documents that show you defined what you want the system to do, and then you've tested the system and showing the results of the system so it functioned as intended. Now, there's validation experts out there. There are different ways to validate computer systems, but that's essentially what in the regulatory agencies or an inspector would look for when they're asking, how did you confirm the intended configurations and functions of their system? They will be looking for validation activities.
And that's it. You're right, Ashley. It is a scary term. And, when you break it down, it really just means, did you test the system and can you show us how you tested it and what did it result in? And, when you're validating, if it doesn't result in what you're looking for, then you tweak it. You test it again until you get the right result. And so I'm glad you exposed us to that word. I think it's really important.
Yeah. It goes back to that real basic concept of, just because I purchased the system and I put it into place that should be fine. Everything's fine. I don't actually have to prove it works.
Yes.
Actually, yes, you do have to prove that it works. That's kind of a take-home message here.
Absolutely. So define how you want to use it, make sure you got processes in place, and then test to make sure it's functioning as intended. Validate.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So important. And, again, this is a great topic. It really is because, it really brings home how technologically we're advancing, where we're going. I mean, I shudder to even mention the term AI. That's becoming a bigger part of our lives as well, which is the biggest, baddest electronic system there is out there right now. But again, if the prompts are not entered properly, you're not going to get the data out of it that you want. Correct?
Yep.
I mean, maybe a lot of younger people will understand that sort of concept because I'm still I'm a Luddite when it comes to that. But nonetheless, so this has been an incredible podcast. And I want to thank both of you so much for joining and bringing your expertise to the table. This is, quality assurance is extremely important. And if, probably one of the most important things is if clients that we're working with have any sort of questions, they're sort of lost at sea. They don't know where to begin. They don't know how to start. Not really certain what they should do. I hope they are able to review these podcast episodes and sort of get an idea of just exactly how important quality assurance is, how nuanced this industry can be, and just exactly how difficult and complex things can be. If one thing attaches to another, attaches to another, attaches to another. Would wholeheartedly recommend anybody that has any questions to reach out to PRN and to find out more information about the program that they're putting together. Because there's some great information here, not just, this has all been 30,000 foot. Implementing any of these particular processes can be a little difficult at times. So if you're looking for someone with some really good expertise, PRN is certainly that entity. Jeanette and her crew over there, and Ashley, you're also a wonderful resource as well. I think that's it for our podcast. We want to thank everyone for coming. Jeanette, would you like to say anything? Any final words?
Thanks to both of you. It's been just an honor to share the podcast with each of you. Quality is just so important, and it really does underpin everything that PRN does as a clinical CRO, especially in ophthalmology. But we really would love to introduce additional quality aspects to what we can offer in services, and Ashley will be a big part of that. So if this gives you just a little taste, we love what we do. You can tell we have a lot of fun doing it. And we would love to include you in that fun. So please do reach out.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed sharing some of my experiences and knowledge with the team. And I look forward to further relationships with those that would like to get some additional quality support.
Perfect. And I will end. Thank you to both of you again. And thank you to everybody who's joined, watched our podcast. We hope you found them very informative. We tried to be a little bit entertaining when we could. Like I said, we kind of geek out on these things. So we hope you found a lot of this information informative. Please reach out to Ashley and Jeanette for more information regarding improving the quality systems in your organization as well. So until the next podcast, I will say bye to Jeanette and Ashley and thank everybody for joining. So take care, everybody, and be good.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Quality Assurance Podcast, a 6-part series dedicated to making research quality smart, simple, and sustainable. Our thanks to Jeanette Stewart and Ashley Hehr for their expertise, and to our sponsor, PRN Pharmaceutical Research Network, LLC, for making this series possible. Be sure to tune in to the next episode as we tackle the industry's QA challenges and offer ideas you can actually use. Smart, simple, and sustainable.